Hey everyone, welcome to Zen and Tech. I'm Rene, and your host, as always, is Georgia. Georgia, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Rene.
So I went and while you were away, I changed my entire, well, not the entire podcast setup, but quite a lot of the podcast setup, as you can see with these Apple TV powered pictures, 3D zooming by and twisting in the background.
I like it.
It's a work in project, though. I'm trying to zen out my workplace.
I like that. I think it's really important the way it has. I think this is a little dull and dry. I have to do something with it.
Well, you used to have a green screen there, but I think that was probably more of a pain in the ass than it was a benefit.
Yeah, it was a little bit more work than what it was worth.
So you wanted to talk today about Zen in the workplace, and I like that concept because we do spend so much of our time working. I mean, depending on the job you have, it might be a few hours a day, it might be almost all of the hours in the day, and I'm not sure we spend as much time thinking about the place in which we work as we do the place in which we live or even, engage in recreation.
I think that it's kind of left often. Some people spend over 8 hours a day in their work environment, and a lot of people come in to see me to talk about work-related stress. So I think that the way that we deal with our environment in and of itself is a really important way that we can manage the stress and make our environment a little bit happier, a little bit more relaxed, and let us enjoy work slightly more.
Now, we did do a show a while ago on stress in the workplace, and that was mostly dealing with boundaries and creating things or deciding what was acceptable to you and the workplace. But today you want to deal more with the surroundings, right? How we function in the space that we work in?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think it's important the way that we interact with others, so setting boundaries and dealing with that. But I think that the way that we manage the space that we have, even if it's a really small space, can change our entire mood and feeling of where we're working. So though it could be really important the way that you interact with everyone that's around you, it's also really important with the environment in which you're in the place that you're at as well.
Person versus person, person versus nature, and person versus themselves are the three classic battles, Georgia.
Those they are, and I think that we take for granted the space in which we are staying and working in. I think that people don't really realize how important it is and how much where we're working can change the way that we feel about it.
Now, there are like these popular terms, and some of them are very old, like, Asian and Chinese philosophy has dealt with feng shui for a long time, and more recently we've had this whole idea about ergonomics, and they do attack it from different areas, but it's not something that's totally foreign to how we live our lives these days.
I think that everyone tries to make their environment more so at home than at work, but a place that feels comfortable and relaxed and that they can enjoy being in. I think that people, because it's work and because they have to maybe spend money or redecorate, are a little bit shy or they don't really think about it. They want to get out of there as fast as possible so they don't spend the time that they could to change their environment to make it work for them.
So, I want to get into this, but I want to try to figure out first how much control we have over it. I mean, there are some places, Pixar famously would let you build your own hut, and you could make a castle or a desert island hut or a spaceship in which you worked. But there's other places, maybe an enterprise or government, where it's akin to a maximum security lockdown cubicle.
Yeah, there are certain things that you may not have a choice over. So there's some, you end up with, say, I know some people that work inside a completely glass environment. So there really is very little privacy. Other people work in small little cubicles with 4 or 6 inside of one pod. And other people end up with little single cubicles, but they're really, really small and the walls aren't very high. So you can watch everyone as they walk by, scoff, perhaps complaining. So there are some things that you may not be able to deal with. But there's a lot of things in these environments that you do have control over.
So when people come to you and they ask you about making their workspace more harmonious, what kind of things are they talking about? Is it decoration? Is it comfort? Is it clutter or declutter? What are the most common things?
I think those are the most common things, but often when people come to see me, they don't actually know why they're stressed. And so it might be just work, it might be the amount that they put on their plate and other things. And I always ask, well, what does your environment actually look like? So in some cases, I'll actually go in and we will redecorate. In some places, I'll redecorate, like, if it's, say, a corporation that wants me to come in and take a look at the entire area and scope of what they're looking at, we can design an area so that people will work. And if they're happy, people will work more often for longer, and they'll get sick less frequently, which is something that everyone wants. People that are happy working work more.
Now, how do you balance this out? Because for some people, a Zen-like workspace would translate into minimalism, while for other people it would translate into familiarity of objects or maybe photographs of things, of people and things that they enjoy. How do you figure out what is a relaxing workspace?
Well, you have to be honest with you. What do you enjoy? Do you like to have things that distract you? Do you like to have a place that's very, very minimalist? Do you like to have a lot of colors? Do you like to have a lot of interaction with other people? Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? I think that those are all questions that you need to know about yourself. And then, what are the triggers to your stress? So if having a lot of things that you still have to do is stressful to you, then you do not want them strewn about on your desk, staring at you constantly, pestering and nagging at you. Please, why haven't you done me yet? You want to find maybe a way of decluttering your workspace, which is actually probably good for everyone. You should always start by decluttering.
So what does decluttering mean before we get to anything? What is that? When you tell someone to declutter, what are you asking them to do?
Well, you want to get rid of the stuff that you don't need. You want to organize the stuff that you do need, and you want to put stuff away that you don't need right now. Then you also want to have a management list of how you're going to get to and what you're going to do with things. So I think that the first thing you need to do is, get rid of and say all the stuff you need, don't need, and are not sure. 3 piles. I usually start with taking everything out of the desk and then just putting things back instead of the other way. That works really well.
Sorry, can you go over that? You mean so I'm in my cubicle, I have my desk full of paper, I have stuff pinned on every wall in the place, I have a mountain of stuff on my filing cabinet. What's my first step?
Take everything in one space down. So maybe you're just going to do the walls. Take everything off your walls. Well, everything that you can take off your walls, take them off. And are you doing that now?
No.
Don't do that now.
I won't.
Take everything off and then reorganize it as you go about it to the things that you like, the things that you need, and the things that you don't need or don't like. And so those you just give away to someone or throw out if you're even better than that. Recycle. And then you do the same thing for each drawer. 1 drawer at a time. And you just do 3 piles. That makes it really easy. Keep, not sure of, throw away.
And what happens to the not sure of
give
pile?
Away. Then you're going to redo that pile afterwards. So you're going to say the ones that you can give to someone else and the stuff that you can store and the stuff you actually need. You're always going to do it in piles of 3 so that you don't end up with 17 piles. If you're very, very type A, very perfectionistic, you'll end up with 17 piles, and that's unmanageable. But if you always do 3 and each time you're segregating into smaller and smaller little sections, that makes life really easy, and you can get through a huge pile really quickly.
Now, what about that feeling that a lot of people have the minute they throw something out the next day, they're going to need it? Is that just hypersensitivity because you've seen it recently?
I always keep things in a maybe file. So I'll put them just in a box, and I'll say, I'm going to leave this, I'm going to put this in storage, and if I ever need it, I'll use it. And if not, in 6 months, you just put the date on the top of the box. In 6 months, I'm tossing it. If you're not sure that you might need it at one point, just leave it in storage and know where it's going to be kept. If you want, take a picture with your iPhone so you know where you've put it and what it's called, and then you can always go back to it later.
And there are some people who do get it great, and for a long time I had my HP Jornada Windows Mobile Palm thing in a thing with all its chargers, and then next to that I had a Trio 680, next to that I had a Trio Pro, and I had all these gadgets, and I had all their charges up just in case I or somebody else needed them at some point.
Right. I totally get that feeling and that worry that right away when you throw it away is going to be when you need it. And that's why you can just keep things that you're not sure of and put them in storage. If you're not using them in a year, depending on which kind of a company and what you do, odds are you're not going to need it. If something that you might need later on down the line, well, it's in storage anyways, but it's not on your desk.
And look, I have all these boxes behind me for iPads and iPhones and Apple TVs and Macs Pass.
Are there iPads and iPhones and Apple TVs in the boxes?
No, I mostly give those away because I don't need to stockpile the actual gizmos.
And you're keeping the boxes because they're cute?
Well, it's better than a blank wall behind me like some people have.
Well, okay, fine. If you're going to use it and it's advertising, it's not causing clutter and stress to you, I think that's totally fine. They do make beautiful boxes, and you are in the industry where it's cute to see all of the different technology that you have gathered up. Everyone can take a look behind Rene and see all the stuff that he has there.
But I mean, I used to work in an enterprise software development company, and there were people who just had shelves of books for software products and programming languages that hadn't been opened, I'm sure, since the 1940s.
Yeah, I think that it's nice to have some places have a book file for everyone. Put your name inside of it, put it there so someone that might actually want to use it can use it. But why are you keeping it on your desk? If you're not going to use it, put it somewhere or find a place where you can put all of the books and you can put your name in it. Yes, there's always a chance that someone's going to pinch it and never bring it back. But if you haven't opened it either, you know, what does it matter? And then you can always get it on your iPad anyways, and then it takes zero storage space.
Now, actually, I'll get to that. I'll get to that later. I had a question about the electronic version of that. But so you've gone through your desk, you've gone through your walls, you've gone through your filing cabinet, you've gotten rid of everything you want to. What's the next step? I mean, do you start looking at personalization? Do you look at the pictures you have of loved ones? Or I mean, I know some people who had like little armies of action figures or an assortment of plants.
Yeah, well, let's actually go to the next step, which would be to do the same thing on your computer.
Okay.
You want to clean your computer. Now, I am a huge hypocrite because right now on my computer, I keep everything, this is so bad, I keep everything on my desktop that's important to me. So I
you have
think
like 9 layers of icons piled on top of each other because you can't even fit it all on the desktop anymore?
You can't even read them. There's a lot that's just on my desktop. But you should, just like you did on your desk, do the same thing on your desktop. Put everything in folders, keep organized, to do, and of course the trash pile, and you can just leave it in the trash and not empty your trash if you're not sure that you're going to need it at a later date. But you should also, like, if you're going to be working at your computer for a long period of time, you want your computer to be working smoothly. You want it to not have anything that's not necessary. You don't want it to have 100,000 pictures and videos that are going to be making your computer slow, because that's also going to be stressful to you. So having a clean, neat, virus-free computer is a big deal. But you probably know better than I do. How do you organize your computer, Rene, so you don't like lose stuff, delete stuff that you don't want to?
Oh, I don't. I mean, I declare ban. Like what I do is I put a lot of stuff on my desktop, then I dump it into the downloads folder, and then eventually I go in and delete everything, and then later regret some of the stuff that I deleted. But that's only for temporary items. Anything that is of significant value goes into Dropbox, which is essentially a mirror of my documents folder. So I have everything that I think I have any need for in the future is in Dropbox on that computer, and then that syncs to everything.
Would it be better to have things on like 2 files, like last week's stuff and then this week, so that you always have?
I'm sure there's hundreds of better systems. It's just for me it becomes a function of how much time is it. The implementation and management of a system can become so much work that I find sometimes it negates the point of having the system.
Right, exactly. You want to keep it simple so that you'll do it. If not, if it's too stressful, you're not going to do it in the first place. If it doesn't work, you're not going to keep at it either.
Or you spend so much time managing the thing, you don't actually do anything in the thing.
Right, exactly. On your computer, just with on your phone and on your actual work phone, you want to turn off all kinds of beeps, buzzes, sounds, because they'll become distracting. So even for my phone ring, you want it to be light and something soft, nothing that you're going to be stressed with or cause you to have to always look at it. People find that looking through your email is a huge time waster. People spend a real long time reading emails, going through spam, and replying to it. So you should find a time during the day when you will do that and not look at it besides that. If it's something important, you look at it every 3 or 4 hours or twice during the day so that you kind of catch anything. And if it's something that's really important, have them send you a text.
I was just looking. I have like often hundreds or thousands of unread emails at any one time.
It becomes unmanageable, and I've like missed really important emails just because I've been spammed with 60 in one day, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to get to all of them. So I also have separate email accounts for different things so that I know that these ones will be important, these ones might not be.
Well, I mean, but that's an interesting thing because, and I was talking about this last week, we use different forms of communication because there are all these different platforms.
Right.
And Skype is continuously beeping at me because that's what we use for our inter-office communications at Mobile Nations. And then I have some people who use Android, and I'll have Hangouts beeping all the time, or Twitter DMs beeping, or emails coming in, or iMessage coming in. And it makes it almost impossible to work because I have the kind of personality that when I see a notification, even if it's not audible, I just see that
Yeah.
number there. I feel like I have to check it. And then people are always asking stuff, and you spend so much time responding to their stuff that you never get your own stuff done.
Yeah, you should have one thing for important things, like things that are of critical nature, and you answer those during, all through the day, because, again, you're dealing with things that are breaking news, and you might need to answer, be it, 2 o'clock in the morning or not, you need to get it up. And I'm in the same kind of position, so that would be text. If you need me to answer it right away, text is the fastest method, and the second would be sending me an actual phone call. Besides that, it would be I only check, and I tell everyone I only check my mail, once or twice per day. I actually check it more often, but by the time that I'll actually be able to reply, it's probably only at night. And people know that, so then I don't have to really worry. They know that if it's something of utmost importance, it's a call or it's a text message.
And
And you should check it all through the day. I understand that you're in the business to have to know the
no,
what.
it's not the business. It's my personality. It's nothing to do with the business. I mean, I should be able to ignore that
It's
stuff, but I
just you.
can't. I see it there, and I have to look at it.
So you should turn it off.
Yeah, I do. I turn off all the audio sounds, but then I still see the little indicator.
You should not have that on.
I don't know
you
if I
should move
can
them
for
so that
everything.
they're
I
not
think
on
they're just
No,
evil.
they shouldn't be on your homepage. Move everything away from your homepage.
I'll try and do more of it, but some stuff just doesn't want to be ignored. Like the whole purpose of the app is to bother you all the time, and then it starts jumping up and down in your dock, which is maddening.
Yeah, I can't stand that.
So I want to go back because I think that once you got the desk clear and once you got the computer clear, there's still a lot of these other issues. Like,
a lot of things, yeah.
do you personalize your workspace? Do you have pictures of family and friends? Do you have your complete collection of Megazone 23 and Gundam, ZZ action figures on the desk, along with your special edition Megatron? Do you have inspirational posters on the wall? Do you what to the degree that you're allowed to by your occupation, how much personalization is good?
I think that you should make it yours. I think that you should go all out to personalize your area, as much as would be allowed, of course. So that would be anything that makes you feel happy and joyful and relieve stress. So I think that things that are photos, pictures, things that make you laugh, things that when you're really, really angry, upset, or having to worry, you can kind of decompress with. Each person will find something different. Some people do not like to have a lot of photos of their home on the desk just because that's personal and they like to separate their private and their work environments. Now, other people love to have a lot of things about, smiling and babies and parents and places that they've been. That's totally fine, and I think that it's important. I think you should also have some fun toys on your desk. Something neat, like a stress ball, something, a puzzle, something that you can need, silly putty, something that spins, anything that you can kind of
Nerf
manipulate.
Machine gun.
If that's allowed, that would be great.
Now, what kills me in offices I've been in almost all the time, the person has a photo of their kids on their desk, and the photos of like a 4 and a 5-year-old, and the kid's already in college.
If that was your favorite time and you love seeing them soft and squishy and tiny, that's completely fine. It's whatever works for you.
Or if it's just the last photo that someone gave you and you've been too lazy to get your own.
Yeah, that sounds very Guy, right? It was just the last one someone put in a frame so you could bring it in. That's fine too. And the same thing for your screensavers on your computer, though most people always have their computers on, but have something that's serene and relaxing and enjoyable. And the same thing with sound. Sound is really important. So if you have anything playing really softly, depending on if you have an office or a cubby, so that it's not going to disturb anyone else, but something that is soothing and relaxing.
Yeah, so you raise a good point, and I wanted to ask you something else first, but you raised this point now, so I'm gonna just improv. How do you negotiate if you share a wall with somebody and it's a glass wall and you cover it with stuff, or if your headphones are loud enough that they can still hear some distraction and they really don't want to hear any distraction? How do you negotiate shared spaces, or at least spaces that are in a close vicinity?
I think that anything that infringes onto another person's eye space or another person's sound space, you should ask them if that's okay before you do it, because it's a space. You want to be respectful of those that are with you. So if you're listening to anything and other people can hear it, you should tone it down. If someone asks you, can you please lower something, you should. And anything that would be taller than your cubby so it would stick out onto someone else's side. If it's annoying or stressful to them, it's not a nice thing to do, and you're going to cause some sort of conflict that will come out later. So if you want to make something that's higher than your cubby wall, that's fine, but ask the person on the other side, is this okay? Would this bother you if I did this?
The smell of their Wapapa Boo Boo tea, Georgia, is just intolerable to me.
Unfortunately, I think that with things that people are eating, if it is something really pungent, so my martial art teacher would have garlic and noodles in the morning time, just raw garlic. That was really it was very hard to train when I'm like almost passing out from garlic fumes. So I think that that would be rude. I think that your tea, it's a fair enough thing. People are going to have to deal with it because it's not that well. If it's peanuts and someone's allergic to it, then, well, yeah, you shouldn't be bringing it around. Please be thoughtful of those around you.
All right, so to get back to what you were talking about before, what about the trend? What about stuff like feng shui? Or actually, let me ask you first. What about organics? Do having plants or even large tree-sized objects in the workplace, do those provide a relaxation benefit?
They do. They do. They do two things. One is that they're beautiful to look at. They make people really relaxed. It's calm. It's soothing. If they're real plants, like live plants, it's nice. It's something to take care of. It's something that you get to see. It's something that is changing and evolving. Also, plants are getting rid of carbon dioxide and giving oxygen, so it's really healthy for your workspace. You're actually going to be breathing cleaner, fresher air in your office, which is so nice if you're in an office. So I love the idea of plants, and even if you just buy some cut flowers, it makes a huge difference, and it's a great gift to give to people that are dealing with a lot of people. To see plants is really nice, and it's uplifting.
So
even if you're guys, flowers are nice on your desk. Maybe a manly flower, but it's still.
It doesn't have to be flowers too. I mean, you can have a bonsai. You can have
that.
little
you can
trees.
Have
you can have
tree,
plants. Yeah, hanging plants.
You can have bamboo.
Yeah.
A lot of cool, different ideas.
So then, what about the whole idea of feng shui, where you don't want to have sharp corners pointing at you, you don't want to have things closing in on your individual space? Do those sort of, I mean, it's sort of a folk wisdom, but do those things actually sit on your subconscious when you're surrounded by things that, I don't know if the right word is distracting, but it's just not comforting?
I think that there's a lot of great ideas in feng shui. I think that the idea of having, never walking into a closed-off wall, maybe putting a mirror or putting something that's reflective in the nature so that you don't feel closed in and it opens up the space that you're in is a beautiful idea. And having an area where you don't have to, your real estate, the area that you get to walk should be as straight of a path as possible and a comforting little alcove. I think that works out really well. So if that works for you, great. But even if in regular, Western designs, they use a lot of feng shui thoughts and beliefs now. So either way, you're probably going to do a little bit of that. And there's a whole bunch of books out there that have great ideas.
And what about ergonomics? I mean, there are basic things like people like ergonomic keyboards or back support on chairs. How much did you pay attention to all that?
Your chair is really important, and if you're going to be sitting for long periods of time, you should have a chair that is supportive to your back and exceptionally comfortable. You are never going to regret having a comfy chair. It's a good idea to invest in them. There's a lot of ergonomic chairs that are out there, and if you're going to be sitting there for a good deal of time, really, it's money well worth it. It's just the same thing with getting a good mattress. You're spending a good deal of time there, and your back is worth it.
So the other parts about ergonomics, having your head at the same angle as your monitor, having your hands not bent up but bent, down towards the keyboard, your elbows not propped up but at 90-degree angles, all that kind of stuff, does that add up too?
It depends on how long you're sitting in one specific place and if it bothers you. You want your area to be comfortable to what you want. So yes, if you're going to be looking all the way downwards all the time, that's going to cause a strain to your neck. So you can just put something underneath, some books even underneath your computer, lift it up so that it's comfortable for you. And you want to have an area, the same thing as when you're working, then you're going to be doing a lot of, say, typing. You want to make sure that that's comfy. If you're going to be looking forward and your computer is to the side constantly, you are going to cause all kinds of neck strain. So that's another huge no-no for your desk area.
So we did a show called Super Functional. If you haven't seen it, you can find it on Mobile Nations. And Jeff, who started Muscle Balance and Function, was talking a lot about not sitting for long periods of time, how your muscles will atrophy, how it'll build up strain in other muscles. And he advocated things like standing desks or getting up and walking often, doing like little circuits around the office, or making sure that you took frequent breaks. What about that kind of stuff?
It's a great idea. We were not made for sitting for long periods of time. We're made to be active. So you should not be sitting for more than 3 hours at a time in one place. You should always get up. Like, ideally, every 1.5 hours or 2 hours, if you can get up, even if it's for 5-10 minutes, walk around, stretch out your muscles, go get something to drink, refresh yourself, and then go back and sit down again. That's really, really helpful. Or, you are going to be getting what kind of a desk are you going to be getting again? A treadmill desk. So that's kind of cool. Or just a standing desk. Or just walk around a little bit. Do things and move. Get your body moving. Get rid of all of the little fuzz that builds in between your muscles if they are not moving in different positions. And that will lessen the aches and pains of being seated in one place. Plus, circulation is really important. So walking around will help your body circulate, and you'll work better when you come back. So don't feel it as a wasted time. You'll be just more refreshed and ready.
And the thing that I like that Jeff used to say is when you look at those tests with NASA astronauts when they're out of Earth's orbit, and you look at what the lack of gravity does to human beings, but then we sit in a chair for so long that we might as well be in anti-gravity, because all the muscles that are designed to keep us standing, like all our quadriceps and the muscle, all the core muscles just atrophy away, and it gets worse. And I don't think I've ever seen a heavy-duty programmer, whether it's Bill Gates or Dan Dodge, walk up on a stage without looking like they've somehow devolved into a less than Homo erectus sort of a functionality.
Yeah, it could be. You can also do exercises while you're sitting down. So you can do your breathing exercises, and you can do flexing your muscles while you're moving. And there's people that have little tiny weights that they keep with them, so that as they're taking their break, they're also going to be strengthening their body. You can build your little, your office should be your mini home with things that are comforting and soothing to you, but also you want to keep your body in shape while you're doing it. And
is the mental break, if I get up and walk around, I try to do it every half an hour because I'm petrified of just spot welding to my workstation. I'm guessing that the mental break you get when you're taking the physical break is important too.
It is. Staring at a computer is not great for our brain. So even if we're doing something that seems to be really engaging at once, it's very straightforward. So we need to have new environments. Plus, interacting with other people, it's important for us. So that's also something that you want to make sure that you're doing.
One of the things I liked about Pixar, in addition to the hut-like offices, is that everyone had to walk through the middle of the building, which I believe was the eating area, in order to get anywhere else. And that the whole purpose of that was that you would be forced to see people and talk to people and maybe help each other. We'll first realize that everyone there was human beings, but also it would get the creative juices flowing, and maybe you could solve a problem with a fresh set of eyes that someone else hadn't thought of who'd been staring at it for months.
True. The only other thing, though, is about having a very open office space, which was a huge change from the cubbies. They went to beautiful, huge office spaces, but that left people without any privacy. And we don't work exceptionally well when we think people are constantly staring at us and perhaps critiquing us. And those of us that are a little bit more shy or lean more towards having some sort of performance anxiety have a really hard time with this, with the thought that someone is constantly staring over their computer. And if they need a breather and they need to, read something that's might not be perfectly work related or something that's enjoyable, they can't do that. And because of that, it actually causes us to work less effectively. So you also need an area that gives you some privacy. So if you have to buy a few plants or have a little space where you have your own area, build your own, putting up some pictures or putting up a vase with some flowers in it, anything that you can, it's important to give that to yourself. And if you have an office space that you work at, make sure that you give your workers a little bit of space so that they have some peace as well.
That reminds me of that business practice in the 80s where they'd have constant video surveillance to try and heighten the efficiency of all the workers.
Yeah, it just makes people break down. They're constantly under stress. It's kind of like the, big brother always watching you. We work very slowly because we're too worried about making mistakes. And then there's constantly people coming up and chatting and talking and wanting to interact with you because they see you. So it actually is a greater deterrent than it is. We need a little bit of a base between both.
Now, I realize our audience skews heavily towards the nerds and the geeks. So the last thing I want to ask you, though, is what about people who are not in nerdy or geeky jobs? Maybe they're in retail and they're on a show floor or in a store all day, or maybe they're in manufacturing and they're on a factory all day, or maybe they're in some place where there is no office and they are working constantly with large groups of people. Is there anything they can do to help, get a little bit of serenity during their day?
Well, you need to take some time away from your work environment just so that you can reflect and then come back after. Also, if you're on your feet all the time, you want to invest in really good shoes. The same thing for ergonomics. If you're going to be in a chair all day, you want to have a great chair. If you're going to be walking around, you want to have comfortable shoes. And that doesn't mean that they have to be ugly. You can get beautiful, comfy shoes, and if not, buy some insoles so that you're going to be comfortable while you're going there. And the same thing that your clothing you're wearing. If you're not comfy, you're not going to enjoy it.
All right, Georgia. Well, thank you very much.
I just want to add one more. Sorry, if that's okay. You can also decide to have like, a fan just to keep some air circulating, a fountain so that you have some nice soothing sounds, and you can make your area smell nice. Unconsciously, we like soothing scents to keep us working and feel relaxed.
And it covers the smell of that wapapa boo boo tea.
Right, unless you love it.
All right, Georgia, thank you very much. Where can people find out more about you and more about the stuff that you do?
You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Georgia_Prime, and you can also find me on iMore.
All right, thank you very much. You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find me at imore.com. You can find all of our shows at Mobile Nations. Georgia, I'm going to go and zen up my workspace right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, Rene.